Hey, what's up guys, it's me your boy Oraban back here with another brand new video and I hope you guys are having a great day. So we are here for the Hungarian Grand Prix review and I'm filming this video right after the Hungarian Grand Prix. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video guys. So let's go through a short brief of the qualifying session. Well, it was very interesting with the new tire allocation format. I was very excited and curious to see how this new format is going to work out. And I have to say, it really did mix up the grid, which actually spiced up the race a bit, which was pretty mellow. And the second thing would be a very close pace difference across teams, causing for some surprise knockouts from the top teams, like Russell got knocked out in Q1 and Sainz got knocked out in Q2. So in terms of the pace difference between teams, like it was shockingly close. And the third thing would be, Checo got into Q3 the first time since when? Since Miami it is. So something good has happened for Checo. He got into Q3, though he did not get any further up the grid in Q3. He qualified P9 after messing up his first sector on his final run at Q3. So again, started a bit on a back foot, but still much better qualifying performance from him since Miami basically. And I hope he gains some confidence out of this. I hope he has much more of a straightforward weekend at Spa. He had an awful crash at FP1 in Hungary. Thankfully, right after he crashed, the rain gods decided to shower some love to the world, which caused basically no valuable running or data gathering for any teams. So basically, all through the FP1 was a waste of time. Thankfully that happened for Checo, but yes, I hope he has much more of a straightforward weekend at Spa. So then we had Max missing out on pole position, which this was something that was very surprising. I thought that this season the pole position was basically reserved for Max Verstappen, but Lewis Hamilton managed to snatch pole position of Max Verstappen by, I think, by 33 thousandths of a second. And that is also Lewis's first pole position in the 2022 regulation of era, which is great. And yes, as I said, the qualifying was actually very much fun to watch. And the next thing would be Aston seeming to be moving backwards since Canada. I don't know what happened to them. Honestly, I hope they get their act together, because it genuinely looks sad, because the kind of form that they had at the start of the season to where they are right now is a bit scary. And I hope they don't fall back into the mediocre performances that almost we are used to from 2022. The next thing would be McLaren on a rise. I mean, I'm happy to see them where they are right now. I hope they cling on to this momentum, unlike Aston Martin. So moving on to the race brief now. Well, the race start was a bit chaotic one, but pretty typical for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Yet it was not as bad as 2021. Lewis was on pole, but he quickly got dropped down to P4 in a matter of 2 corners. And Max, once he got into the lead, it was a very comfortable drive for him, and he drove home to amazing 7th consecutive race win of the season for him. And it was Red Bull's 11th consecutive race win of the season and 12th consecutive race win since the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of 2022, which means they tallied and also surpassed the record of McLaren for the most consecutive race wins by a team. Meanwhile, for Checo, a brilliant recovery from P9 to P3 on a track which is considered as Monaco with no walls and pretty much hard to overtake. He managed to recover from P9 to P3. He could have had P2, but as he got near Lando, almost 3 seconds it was, they reached the back markers, and Checo with the marbles on his tires couldn't quite do it. But still, P3 is a very good result for Checo considering his run of form in the past couple of Grand Prix, other than, maybe excuse the Austrian Grand Prix. All other races has been pretty sad for him. So a P3 result here is good. I hope he can take the positives out of this weekend and his performance, and I hope he can, build his confidence on the car and on himself to have much more of a straightforward and consistent weekends from here on to the end of the season, or maybe even into next season. And by the way, brilliant overtakes, hard and fierce. It almost felt like I was watching the old school Checo, so it was great to witness. And hopefully he could, have a more straightforward weekend at Spa. That is the only thing I wish for, and build on his result. So moving on to Lando Norris now. Well, starting P3, managed to get past both his teammate and Lewis Hamilton to finish P2. 2 consecutive P2 finishes for him. A great morale and confident boost for McLaren and Lando, with Piastri finishing the race P5 after starting P4. Nonetheless, a great result for the team. I just hope that they can build on this momentum. Moving on to Lewis Hamilton now. Well, Lewis started the race on pole, losing it to Max at turn 1 and further losing 2 more positions to the McLaren duos, falling down to P4, finishing the race P4. A decent result with Russell starting P18, finishing the race P6. A good recovery drive from him. A decent haul of points for Mercedes. And talking about Ferrari, well, I predicted for them to have a dreadful weekend here as my bold prediction, and not a surprise really to see them in P7 and P8 with Charles and Sainz, qualifying P6 with Leclerc and P11 with Carlos. Carlos managed to recover to P8. It was a good job from him. Charles, on the other hand, with a slow pit stop to a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, finishing P7 after crossing the line P6 on track, is somewhat of a weak performance from him and the team. Talking about Aston Martin, with the amount of confidence and trust they had in themselves to claim the Hungaroring to be the track in which they could have their first race win of the season, to qualify P8 and P14 with Alonso and Stroll to finish the race P9 and P10, scraping home the last bit of points, is almost laughable. The team that was so good with their pace of improving their car's performance through the season last year, just slipping up from the massive performance advantage they had over the rest of the field at the beginning of this season, not being able to hold on to it by bringing in the right upgrades at the right time for the car. I just feel like Aston Martin is falling back to where they were last year, which is sad. And I hope they can get their act together. Talking about Williams, on the other hand, had a surprisingly good weekend out here at Hungary, at least with the Albon side of the garage. Qualifying didn't really swing in their favor, with both the cars getting knocked out in Q1. Albon climbing, he had the pace to get into Q2, but the circumstances went in his favor to qualify P16 with Albon and P20 with Sargent. Albon made some strong inroads on the race to finish P11, just in the cusp of points. Is a brilliant showing from Albon for Williams. Can't say the same about Sargent though, qualifying P20 and finishing the race P18 with 2 cars retiring from the race is not a good outlook, especially this being a track that he's very much familiar with. Well, moving on to Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo was flying high in qualifying on Saturday to qualify P5 and P7 with Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas. To finish the race P12 and P16 is a huge drop in the race result. Zhou having a horrible start to the race, rear-ending Daniel Ricciardo at turn 1, which was a chain reaction causing for both the Alpines to retire from the race, is not a good outlook for him. Valtteri Bottas, on the other hand, did relatively a good job. Qualifying behind Zhou, he managed to finish the race ahead of him with no mistakes in P12. So overall, a good weekend from Valtteri, considering the real race pace of the Alfa Romeo, but not a good weekend from Zhou Guanyu, at least in the race. Moving on to AlphaTauri. Well, with the new recruitment of Daniel Ricciardo, I was so focused on him this whole race weekend to see how he performs in his first race since his little sabbatical, qualifying P13 ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, which is something that I predicted for the race. With Yuki getting knocked out in Q1 was not a good look on his part, considering he just got beaten by a driver who hasn't driven the car that he's been driving for the past 7 months, and straight away was able to beat him, qualifying P17 Yuki Tsunoda, and with Daniel falling down the order after the incident at turn 1 at lap 1. The fact that he managed to finish the race still ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, and that too in P13, the place he qualified, shows that his race pace is on point. By the way, I also predicted for Daniel Ricciardo to outrace Yuki Tsunoda, so can't believe how close my prediction actually was to reality. Yuki finishing the race P15 was a decent outing for AlphaTauri, though I feel like if Daniel didn't get yeeted by Zhou at lap 1, I feel like he would have actually finished in the points, or at least would have fought for one. So talking about Haas, well, I predicted them to struggle this weekend, and struggle they did. Quali was as usual, they fared pretty well, with Nico again getting into Q3, qualifying P10, Magnussen qualifying P19, getting knocked out in Q1, shows the pace deficit between the teammates under one lap. In the race again, as expected, the Haas fell down the ladder to finish P14 with Nico and P17 with Magnussen. So overall, a flop weekend continues for Haas. I really hope they can do something about their race pace, because their one lap pace is actually looking pretty competitive with the rest of the grid. It's just that their long run race pace is not too good, and also their tire degradation. Yep. Those are the two things I feel like Haas really needs to get on top of, at least for the next season. So lastly, Alpine. Well, what do I say? The luck or the universe, however you want to put it, it is not in their favor for the last 2 weeks. I predicted them as a team to have the biggest gain this weekend, but their qualifying was half-lived, with both the cars getting knocked out in Q2, with Esteban Ocon qualifying P12 and Pierre Gasly qualifying P15 after his lap time got deleted for track limits. And just as I thought that their weekend couldn't get any worse, as this is already a track that is considered hard to overtake and basically has a nickname of Monaco with no walls, both the cars didn't even get to complete a lap competitively, having to retire after getting punted into turn 1 at the race start by Zhou Guanyu. So yes, can't say much about Alpine this weekend other than pray and hope that they can have a better weekend next week at Spa. So overall, the race was okay, not bad. The qualifying was more interesting to watch. The race felt like pretty much qualifying engagement just turned 40% down. The only thing that kept the race interesting was the Ferrari / Leclerc fumble, Checo's fierce overtakes, Russell's slow but steady recovery to P6, and Lando's radio message to his race engineer. Those are the only things that basically kept the race interesting for me. No safety car, no VSC, obviously no red flags, and no changeable weather conditions, so a straightforward Grand Prix. So I'll give the Hungarian Grand Prix a 4 out of 10. Definitely loving the new qualifying format with the tire allocation. It's a welcome change. So yes guys, that would be it for the Hungarian Grand Prix review. Let me know in the comments on what you thought about the Hungarian Grand Prix, the new qualifying format with the tire allocation, and what you thought about Daniel Ricciardo's performance, and what you thought about the race itself. Like put it down in the comments. I would like to know what is your take on the race. So yep, that being said, I would like to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe to the Autobahncast YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon and turn on all notifications so you get notified whenever I upload a brand new video. It's me, your boy Autobahncast, aka Vinesh, and I'm out. Love you guys. Stay safe. Peace.